Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. My name is Gab, and I'm here with my cousin and co-host,
Dylan.
And today we are discussing a movie that I have nominated to watch. Nope. I have a movie that I have nominated as one to watch before you die.
Start
redemption. No, we're already here. Dylan, before we tell the people what the movie is, even though they have clearly selected this episode knowing full well what the movie is, why don't you very briefly tell them why they're listening to us?
Listen, we both have some experience in this industry. We both went to school for it. Also, we love movies. And hopefully, if you love movies, you're listening to this podcast and you're hearing us talk about a movie you love. And maybe we're going to like it. Maybe we're not going to like it. That's the whole point of the show, to listen and hear if we like it or not. God damn it.
Yeah.
Gab,
so you're one of those people, listener, that likes to listen to other people give their opinion without any way to give your opinion. And yeah, that's you're some kind of voyeur for movies. Yeah. Okay. So that's it. So today we are going to be talking about the 2009?
2007.
2007 movie musical Across the Universe. Dylan, tell the people what this movie is about.
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
Across the Universe is a musical that is set to the songs of the Beatles, while in the background we have a love story, the Vietnam War, and a rising musical act.
Yeah, that's awesome. What does IMDb have to say?
Yeah, fucking nailed that shit. That's right, motherfucker.
You kind of did. I'm like shocked.
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like it took a lot out of me because I'm like, I need a second.
He's sweating bullets, everyone.
The IMDb plot summary is: the music of the Beatles and the Vietnam War formed the backdrop for the romance between an upper-class American girl and a poor Liverpudlian artist.
They did not say Liverpudlian.
It's Liverpudlian.
That has to be a typo.
Hold on, because I'm like, IMDb. What happened? I'm going back.
Liverpool doesn't have a D in it. That can't be.
Yeah, Liverpudlian.
Okay. I hate that, but whatever.
That's IMDb's fault. That's not my fault. I don't want that reflected on me.
No. You did good. You did good. You did well. So let's give just like a little bit more context. I don't think we really need to go into it. Oh, you seem to want to say something.
You're skipping a crucial part that we do after the plot summary.
Oh my God, the taglines.
The taglines.
Oh,
and you know what?
Tag me.
I don't think I love any of these.
Oh boy.
All you need is love.
Lazy.
Within the lyrics of the world's most famous songs lives a story that has never been told.
Hate
until
that.
Now.
Nope, even worse.
They lived without rules. They loved without fear. But as the world changed, so did they.
You know, I'm going to say All You Need Is Love is way better than any of those.
I got one more.
Oh, Jesus.
From director Julie Taymor comes the most original, exhilarating, spectacular, groundbreaking motion picture of the year.
Well, that's a bit much. Also, Dylan, Taymor.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it like Jeffrey Tambor without the B?
No, it's more like Taymor. I guess Tambor, but with a Y instead of a B. Taymor. Do you remember the Spider-Man musical on Broadway?
Turn Off the Dark.
Yeah. Did you see it?
No, I was scared of getting hit by a falling person. I wouldn't want to go see that.
Right. It was the biggest disaster of the 21st century in terms of Broadway productions, and Julie Taymor directed it. That was like her like masterpiece.
Those poor performers.
I know. Spider-Man was, so for context, those of you not from New York, Spider-Man was just like falling from the rafters. Like it was, pieces of the set were falling down. They were dropping him and he was falling into the audience. Like it was a disaster.
People got seriously hurt. Like Julie Taymor has defeated Spider-Man more than the Green Goblin has.
Can you just like pull up a little bit of information on this, please, while we're on the subject? Because I was in college at the time, and a lot of my friends were like auditioning for shows, and Spider-Man was always recasting because people were like, fuck this, I'm out.
Oh my God. Just a few weeks later at another performance, Chris Tierney, one of the many actors who plays Spider-Man in the musical, fell 20 to 30 feet while performing an aerial stunt. It was a near-death accident in which he broke multiple vertebrae, ribs, and suffered fractures in his elbow, scapula, and skull.
Holy shit. And that was like not a one-time thing. That happened a lot.
Yeah. Also, for Spider-Man, like, don't die for Spider-Man.
Also, like, did anybody need a Spider-Man musical? It just, no one asked for that. Because I'll tell you what, I'm going to say 99% of the people that love Spider-Man are probably not coming all the way to New York to see this musical. And all of the people that love musicals are probably not going out of their way to see Spider-Man. Like, I'm not seeing the Venn diagram have a big overlap here.
Well, it's also like, I fucking love Batman. I'm not waiting with bated breath for Batman the musical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
These things aren't bred and born together.
Right. That's what I mean. But yeah, Julie Taymor. So I would say at the very least, this was a more successful directing endeavor for her. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, I'm sure, in the facts. Did you have that as a fact that she directed Turn Off the Dark?
I did not, because as you know, IMDb does not include theater credits.
Oh, interesting. I that didn't occur to me. I also didn't know you only got your facts from IMDb, so way to be lazy.
I don't only get my facts from IMDb. I get a lot of my facts from IMDb. Leave me alone.
All right.
How many facts do you get, Gab?
I am here for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to keep the people entertained. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I do not bring anything else to this equation, and you know it, and that's why you asked me to do this. So I want to start by giving a little bit more context for anybody who may be familiar with other like jukebox musicals. This is very similar to like a Mamma Mia, where they take the music of ABBA and they kind of create a storyline around it. And that's what we did here with the music of the Beatles. And I think in some instances they do it. Well, I guess that's getting into my opinion, but so I'll save that. The storyline, Jude is a very poor Englishman from Liverpool who we learn is looking for his birth father, who abandoned him during the war. We find that he was a soldier. He went to Liverpool, he knocked up his mother and then left. He finds him in Princeton, New Jersey, and he's like a janitor. He has a family. He's like, I guess I'm glad to know you're alive, but like, I can't really do anything for you. So while he's in New Jersey as an illegal alien, Jude meets his friend. Help me out
Max.
Here. Max, thank you. And Max takes him home for Thanksgiving, introduces him to his sister. Jude falls madly in love with his sister, whose boyfriend just died in the Vietnam War. So eventually they all find their way to New York, as many young people did in that time period, and end up being like sort of artists. And it sort of gets a little bit Rent feeling. Yes. Where they're sort of all like living in this building together and creating art, and none of them really have any like real jobs. And
I guess, but it also makes sense for the time that they're beatniks and hippies.
Right. Yeah. But it just, for those who haven't seen it, it felt very much like Rent. And they are heavily protesting the Vietnam War, which has drafted Lucy, Max's six. I don't know why I want to call him Alex so bad. Max's sister that Jude is in love with. Max has been drafted into the war, and everybody is upset about it. And obviously Lucy can't be drafted because she's a woman, and Jude can't be drafted because he's an illegal alien. He's not a U.S. citizen. So
you don't need to explain who's not drafted, Cap.
Sorry. I just want to be clear. And basically it's about protesting the war and life in that time period in New York and their love story. Also Bono,
yes.
So who makes an appearance. I will, the last thing I'll say is that it does follow loosely the timeline of the Beatles music. So we see in the beginning of the movie, it's a bit more like, I want to hold your hand, she loves you. Like it's a bit more like buttoned up, sort of like late 50s, early 60s, like rock and roll. And then as the movie continues, it becomes a little bit more like 60s and 70s Sgt. Pepper, I Am the Walrus, acid trippy music. And then it sort of ends tying it all back together. So it does loosely follow sort of the journey of the Beatles as a band.
Loosely follows not only their
sound.
music, but also their actual career.
Yes. Yeah. Which is cool. Anyway, now that I've probably confused more people than I've helped, should we get to opinion time?
No, I want to hear you struggle to explain Max more. Let's get to
I'm like,
opinion
Alex.
time.
Yeah.
In this critic's opinion,
that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
This was a movie that I think I'd seen once around the time when it came out and pretty promptly forgot about. And I don't think I ever would have gone back and rewatched it if not for you suggesting it. I love the music of the Beatles, so I think that I was very much a purist at the time, and I was like, the Beatles shouldn't be sung by not Beatles. What is this?
Sure.
And I will say, looking back at it, the thing that I value the most about this movie is it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's maybe one time where I had a problem with one visual, like there was like CGI during one of the songs. I was like, oh, that would look great.
Wait, are you talking about the Dear Prudence?
It might have been during that. I'm not sure.
Where it's like the sky and it's just clouds.
No, even that was okay. It's further in there was something though. I can't remember what specifically it was. Where I know there was a CGI shot that I wasn't in love with, but
okay. But for the most part, it's visually stunning.
Yes, the director Julie Taymor created a beautiful film here. There were several times where my notes are just, wow, this shot looks great. And
yeah,
it's choreographed very well. It is a beautiful looking movie.
Yeah.
I don't think the substance is like extreme, but there's a lot of style here. It's a little bit of a shallow story. It sort of feels like, how there have been some movies I brought out where you're like, this is a real 15-year-old boy movie.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like, this is kind of a 15-year-old girl movie because it's like,
oh yeah,
there's a total love story here, but there's the Beatles and stuff for everyone else. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. Oh, 100%. Anytime you have a jukebox musical, the storyline is going to be like haphazard because they're trying to take unrelated songs and make like a common thread. So I think you sort of have to like give up the like, the chokehold you have on like the desired plot and just kind of enjoy like the almost like a sketch show, right? Where it's like loosely related things that all happen, but set to like good music.
It almost sort of feels like, I feel like I'm struggling to think of the words I want to, not performative dance, but there's a word like that I'm trying to think of.
Interpretive dance?
Yes. It's almost like an interpretive movie because it's just like, you have these songs and they were like, make a movie, man. Like it feels less like there was a script than there were songs. And then they were like, somebody write something between these songs to give us sort of a through line. Yeah. And there are sometimes it works really well. And there are some times where I'm like, whoa, you're just hopping and skipping from song to song. Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I definitely think there were some places where they were like, and if we name this person this, we can include this song, like Prudence.
Yes.
Like there was no need for that. But like I as somebody who likes the song, it was like, oh, this is nice. I like this song. And it gave a lot of variety too. So that, because I think the thing is, when you follow the timeline of the Beatles, once you get past a certain point, it's just like weird. Like it was nice of them to include like I Am the Walrus and Dear Prudence, where it's like, okay, this isn't all acid music,
Yeah, there's trippy drug period for sure. I do appreciate there are so many references in this that I was like, you don't need some of these references, because there are some references that are just lazy. Like there's a moment where it's when he's still in England and the guy goes, I never thought to myself when I'm 64 that I'd still be here. And it's like, you don't need that. You're about to do 200 more references. Don't worry about that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if Prudence had been like, look, I'm holding a glass onion. It's like, yes, that's also the title of the song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's heavy-handed for sure.
I found a raccoon in the street. Let's name it Rocky.
Yeah. For 100%, no question. What was your favorite musical number or like song or like visual? Like what was your favorite scene? Because there's one scene that is so clearly my favorite and the one that stuck with me.
Well, I think the one that sticks with me, and I'm hoping we'll say the same one, because I think it's definitely the best one of the movie to me, is She's So Heavy.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yes.
And the whole the I want you so bad into She's So Heavy is like when he is at the recruiting office, it's just like perfection.
Yes. Everything about that, from the sets to the choreography to the dancing to
The masks.
the masks, everything about that scene is like, again, you could just watch that, however long it is, 5 to 7 minutes, because the song I think is actually like 7 minutes or something like that. But you could just watch that clip and you get everything you need to outside of the actual movie. Because I don't think there's any dialogue during it either.
No,
visually,
not at
it's
all.
also just stunning too. Like there's that moment where they have it's ammo crates, but inside the ammo crates is different parts of Max's body that we're looking at. And I was like, God damn, that's fucking cool.
It's so good. And you can kind of understand that like Julie Taymor has that theater Broadway background, because that would be so easy to just pick up and put on a stage with the right, technical crew and set directors.
Well, part of me thought that this time, because there are so many movies we've done where I'm like, oh, it's clear that this movie is based on a play. And meanwhile, I'm like, maybe this movie would be better as a play. Like there are some things obviously you can't do and it would make it somewhat limited, but I feel like there's so much performance in this that I'm like, oh, it might be more fun to watch this be done live.
Yeah. Yeah. I that scene is just like forever imprinted in my brain. My second favorite, which is not nearly as good, and I think this is just like my favorite Beatles song, which is why it speaks to me so much, is I've Just Seen a Face, when they're at the bowling alley.
I could not place that song. As I was hearing it, I was like, which song is this? And I was loving that scene too, because when he is getting rolled down the bowling alley, like the lane, I was like, ooh, this is so cool.
Yeah. I love it. I love that whole scene. One thing I think Julie Taymor does a lot of in this movie that works really well, but is also like obviously a Broadway staple, is the tracks in the floor that move. So people laying on the floor and moving, or people standing and being moved. And that is just such a, like, most Broadway theaters have that in the stage.
Well, and it works so well. Like during She's So Heavy, when it looks like they're all on a factory line being shipped out into the war, or at the bowling alley when he's moving down the lane. And it was both of those times I was like, oh, this is cool. You know what I mean? There were so many times where I stopped and was like, visually, this is great. You know what I mean? I can't ask for more than what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's something I can get to in the facts, but I'll just say it now. Apparently, according to Julie Taymor, they were singing live, like while everything was going on. And I'm like, really? And she made reference to Les Miserables, because she was like, before they were doing it, we didn't make a big deal out of it, but everybody was singing on set. And I was like, wow, that's very cool. Yeah. And there's times where visually they did things that it was, you probably could have more easily done this in post, but they have Max's face, and then they're projecting on Max's face strawberries and the war and all of that to just get these shots that are very unique looking. And there's another shot that I love too, when Jude is on the subway and we're looking at the back of his head, but in the glass we can see the reflection of his face as he's singing. And like I said, visually I kept thinking like, wow, this looks great. But yeah, there are times where it's just like, all right, we're just doing another song.
Yeah.
And there are characters who just get forgotten about. Like Prudence, I feel like, has a couple songs, and there are times where it's like, where's Prudence? Is she okay? Did we forget she existed?
Yeah. And, it's funny because as I was watching it, I had a lot of moments where I was like, because I was watching it with Corey, and Corey is like not a big Beatles fan. Like he knew some of the songs, but he wasn't like, it wasn't like his jam. And when you're watching a movie that you love with someone and the whole time you're kind of like, are you enjoying this? Like, are you enjoying this? Is this good? Like, and then you start to get self-conscious and you're like, oh my God, I hope it gets better. Like, I hope that like the moment is coming, And so I was feeling a little bit like, all right, this is long. Okay. This is like, this song is unnecessary, or this song is kind of boring, or they did the whole song, really, not just like 30 seconds. Like I'm thinking specifically about I Want to Hold Your Hand, when Prudence is singing.
Yeah. It's a very low energy version of it too.
Oh God. And it's just like, we don't really need this. Like, okay, you're a lesbian. I get it. Can we like hurry this along, please? This is boring. And I know the bowling alley is coming up and I love that song. So it's like, there are a lot of like lull moments. But I think that it does avoid the trap of every song being a banger. You know what I mean?
I guess. Like, Gab, you're well aware I love the Beatles. How much do I love the Beatles? When I worked at Wendy's, I would have made a parody album of Beatles songs with Wendy's in them.
You did?
I sure did. Me and my friend Samir, along with my friend Calais, we created a full album, Sergeant Penny's Lowly Half Scrub Band.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, with songs like I'm Cooking for You, In My Line. Yeah. In fact,
Wow.
I even
Okay.
wrote an entire second album called Wanta Ave, which was the street that the Wendy's was on.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yes.
Please link in the description below.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so I didn't know that you loved the Beatles that much because I love the Beatles.
I love the Beatles, and I will point out right now, you want to know my least favorite Beatles song?
Wait, let me guess.
Go ahead.
Is it is it like a more popular one?
Yes.
Your least favorite? Okay, I'm gonna give me 3 guesses.
Sure.
Across the universe?
No.
I Want to Hold Your Hand.
No, I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds?
No, it's Hey Jude. I hate Hey Jude.
Why?
It's just so annoying and it just drags on for so long. The only part I do like is it going Jude, 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 Jude.
Which I love the way they did that in the movie.
Yeah, I just knew the whole, like, the moment Jude is introduced, I'm like, how long until I have to hear it?
That's fair. Yeah, I don't necessarily love that song either. I think for me, my least favorite is the like really trippy stuff. And when Bono comes in and like the benefit of Mr. Kite and
that
like
you
I
could
Am
have
the
cut out
Walrus.
entirely. I felt like I love I'm the Walrus, goo goo goop. But
Yeah.
I did not feel like we need Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. But I get it that it's supposed to, I guess, just be transitioning. And you do have a great shot of they're all tripping out and they're in the water, and then Max rises up out of the water and he's in the water in Vietnam, and I was like, that's cool. There are definitely a lot of songs that I was like, we could cut this.
Yeah. But what I will say is outside of I Want to Hold Your Hand, which I think is the worst part of the movie, anytime there was a song that I was like, I don't care for this song, or this isn't really driving the plot, I was like, but goddamn, it's so good to look at, you know?
Yes. It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Visually stunning. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
I would not go as far to say original, exhilarating, spectacular, groundbreaking motion picture of the year.
Yeah.
But it was visually stunning.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. I'm trying to think of what else I want to say about this.
I did write down another very lazy reference where they're talking about Prudence. They're like, where'd she come from? And he goes, she came in through the bathroom window. And I'm like, that's also a Beatles song. Yes.
Yeah. And I had to like look at Corey and be like, that's the name of a song. Like, yeah.
I did just want them to like one time be like, God damn it, Prudence, if you start me up, and be like, oh no, oh, wait.
I think if it went a different way, they would have had that opportunity. Any songs missing that you were like, damn, I can't believe they didn't do this?
I mean, it's the Beatles, so there's 100 famous Beatles songs. So no, I don't think that there was any song that I was like, they should have included this one and they didn't. You know what I mean? I think they really stuff as many songs in there as they can. In fact, it's more the opposite, where I'm like, you didn't need that song.
Yeah. I do remember being surprised that there was no Twist and Shout, especially like at the like prom in the beginning, but I don't remember what the prom song was that they did.
It's also the most screamy song. You know, when they used to do Twist and Shout, it would have to be their last song of the night because John Lennon would use up his voice on it.
Yeah. No, that I do know. And also, I guess, like, from a movie standpoint, like, Ferris Bueller kind of, like, took that one, you know?
Yeah, I guess forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll say this. It's long.
That's what I'm saying, because there's a couple songs that I'm like, you know what? We could easily get this down to 2 hours if we get rid of some of these.
I think we could have gotten rid of Hey Prudence. I think we could have gotten rid of Prudence. I think we could have gotten rid of Hey Prudence. I think we could have gotten rid of fucking I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Yeah. I think if we got rid of those 3, it's a tight, 2 hours.
Yeah, I also feel like I'd be okay with keeping the time if we expand more on some of these relationships. Like, I would like to see more of Max in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Or I would like to see more of Jude and Lucy and just expand on their romance a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it kind of just feels like I know they're in love, but I don't know I don't see them being in love. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. I hear that.
And I think that gets a little frustrating when it's just like, they're in love.
Yeah.
Believe me, they're in love.
Right. You didn't see them looking at each other. They're in love.
Yeah, they're in love. Didn't you hear?
Yeah.
I told you about it already.
Yeah. No, I'll give you that. I
will say Max also looked super familiar to me the whole time. So much so that I had to pause the movie and be like, I know this guy from something. I'm looking it up. And I figured out what it was. And I was like, why did I recognize this guy from that?
Who? Because I recognized him too.
I don't think you'll recognize him from the thing I did, because I recognized him from the movie The Ruins. He plays like the guy who takes them to the ruins and then ends up he's like the very first guy who like, oh, you're going to be like the example of how somebody gets fucked up by this place, because he like starts to get his legs eaten by plants. It sounds super bad out of context, but it's actually, it was a pretty good movie. It was fun.
Wow. Yep, that's not where I know him from. I only know him from this, but he's so good. I think he's the best one of all of them.
He was probably my favorite part of the movie, and I'm not sure if he just has the most interesting character, but when he goes to Vietnam, I was like, what's happening with Max? Because I felt I missed that character when he was gone. Yeah.
I love that scene, that She's So Heavy scene has got to be one of my top 10 favorite movie scenes of all time. And maybe that's not fair, because it's so like hard to really quantify this as like a movie, because it's such a musical. But like, that scene, like I remembered every moment of that scene. You know what I mean?
That scene is really good. And, you know, maybe it's a little heavy handed, but it works. It fucking works perfectly. It's something that is still very relevant today with all the warfare that goes on now, that like you could watch it now and be like, yep, that still hits the exact message it's trying to hit. You know what I mean? Yeah. I had no issues with She's So Heavy at all. That scene, like I said, is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. And I think the singing is really good. Like the woman who plays Sadie.
Well, the woman who plays Sadie, and I found the same thing for JoJo. Those are musicians who found musicians who could act a little. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they each have like 2 credits on IMDb, because they're just musicians.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Little heavy-handed, but the scene of Let It Be where they're like all of a sudden in Detroit when Dr. King is murdered.
That was something that when they also had the riot, I was like, this could go. I guess that's sort of how we introduced JoJo to the movie, because he comes after that. He comes to New York. But I was sort of like, this is a bit much.
Yeah, I agree. But I do think that little boy who is singing is like amazing.
Yes. I mean, all the singing is very well done. There's nobody that I was like, I could have done that better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think there was just times where I was like, a bit much.
You know, I really do like thinking out loud now. I think that if this were a Broadway musical, it would go over better than it does as a movie.
And I think it'd be absolutely fabulous as a musical. I just think there's probably too much to do on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it would be too difficult a stage show to produce.
Well, yeah, people would be falling out of the sky. We learned that already from Julie Taymor. But I do think I think live audiences are a little bit more forgiving of like the lack of plot, and a little bit more like spectacle oriented, where it's like
exactly
the music and the visuals are so beautiful. Which is why often musicals made out of people's favorite movies don't go well, because people are like, yeah, but the plot was lost. And it's kind of like, well, it's not about the plot. You know what I mean?
Yes. And the scene where Jude fights the Green Goblin and Electro was very weird to me. I was combining the Spider-Man thing. Oh, God.
Oh, I was like, did I miss something?
I'm going to cut myself out of this podcast. Okay.
Yeah, please do. Okay. Well, I don't really have a ton more to say. Do you?
No, I'm good to get to facts if you want to.
All right, let's get to the facts.
I want the truth!
Face the facts, dukes.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
Let's start our facts where we normally do. On IMDb, it has a 7.3 out of 10. On the Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter, it has a 53% with an average rating of 5.9 out of 10, 94 fresh reviews, 84 rotten. The audience score, though, is an 82% with an average score of 4.1 out of 5. The movie had a budget of $45 million and grossed $29.6 million. Which I will say, despite that being, a terrible box office gross, I think that movie does a lot with a very limited budget.
Yeah.
Although I don't think any of the budget is going towards stars, because all of these people were pretty unknown at the time.
Well, Evan Rachel Wood.
She was nobody at the time, though.
Is she anybody now?
She's somebody. I've heard her name.
Oh, well, she's in what was the TV show that she was really good in? Westworld. But
Yes.
yeah. The budget was definitely not spent on people, and it was definitely spent on visuals. And again, it's par for the course with Julie Taymor. It all tracks and makes perfect sense. Also, I don't know that this was like out for very long. Like, I don't think that it was like a widely released movie. No?
I think it was widely released. I don't think it was majorly marketed, though.
Okay, that must be what I mean. Yeah.
The critics' consensus: psychedelic musical numbers can't mask Across the Universe's cliched love story and thinly written characters.
Okay.
Let's get to some reviews, though.
Yeah.
Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars and said the experience of the movie is joyous.
I love that.
J.R. Jones from the Chicago Reader said, the Rent-like ensemble of yearning young people at the center of the story is a drag. I wanted to turn the sound down on them and say rude things.
Rent-like, though. You hear that?
You just skip past, I wanted to turn the volume down and say fuck them in their faces.
Yeah. I just want to, I was just, somebody agrees with me.
Ann Hornaday from the Washington Post, Across the Universe, in which Taymor shoehorns, contorts, and otherwise bullies some of the Fab Four's greatest hits into a vapid Hollywood musical, is the kind of project that must have looked great on paper. On screen, not so much.
I don't know that I like totally agree with that.
I think it's a bit harsh.
Yeah, I don't like, you don't have to love this movie, but I don't think that it like bastardizes the Beatles. I don't think it's like offensive to the Beatles.
I think that maybe that was a recency thing, because I think if you asked 2007 Dylan, I was like, this is a slight against the Beatles. Like, I think I was much more against it at the time.
Sure, but that's like you. By the way, do you happen to have Paul McCartney's response to this?
Sort of, a little bit.
Okay.
I will tell you that anyone who was still alive and involved with the Beatles did like the film and had no problems with it. From Yoko Ono to Julian Lennon to Paul McCartney to Ringo Starr, they all were in some way gave something positive about the movie.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that, because I don't think that it is, especially like, what the fuck did I know in 2007? But like looking back now, I think it probably is a nice homage.
Mm-hmm. And this last review I basically picked out because of this person's name. This last review from BBC.com, Stella Papamichael.
Amazing.
Thankfully, Sturgis keeps the film grounded with a rumpled, earthy charm, and Wood brings much needed emotional depth. And yes, the songs will strike a chord as well.
I would agree with that. I think that's pretty spot on.
Yeah. It was obviously, as we said by now, directed by Julie Taymor, who also directed Frida, The Tempest, and The Glorias, and Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. The movie was written by Dick Clement and Ian Le Frenat, who also wrote Flushed Away, The Bank Job, and Tracy Takes On.
Sounds like Ian Omelette du Fromage.
I was like, that's the closest I'm getting with this name. It stars Evan Rachel Wood as Lucy, who you may know from Westworld, The Wrestler, and Practical Magic. Jim Sturgis as Jude, who you may know from 21, The Other Boleyn Girl, and Geostorm, which if you've not seen Geostorm, I would recommend. It is very stupid and enjoyably stupid.
Okay.
Joe Anderson as Max, who you may know from The Ruins, The Crazies, and The Grey.
Great in this movie.
And then I just put Dana Fuchs as Sadie and Martin Luther as Jojo and TV Carpio as Prudence. None of them had... I'm sorry.
That man really has the balls to be named Martin Luther?
He didn't pick his... Well, maybe he did pick his name. I don't know.
He probably did.
I'm like, that's a good question. I didn't think that through.
Yeah, especially if he had to join the Screen Actors Guild and somebody else had his name.
He also goes by Martin Luther McCoy.
Okay, I see. So yeah, that was probably a style choice. So Corey and I were talking about this the other day. Obviously, you know that when you join the Screen Actors Guild, you cannot have the same name as somebody else. So like Michael Keaton's real name is Michael Douglas, but there already was a Michael Douglas, so he had to go by something different. That's not like a I don't want to be confused for this person. That's like a rule. You have to have an original name. Nobody else can have your name.
That's why sometimes it's just like an initial is the difference or something like that.
Yeah. So like somebody had my name, so I needed to have a different name, and every name that I came up with, somebody already had. Like, I don't know that many Gabrielles, but it was bad. Which is why I ended up using the name that I used. But anyway, Corey and I were talking about this the other day. It doesn't seem to be the same for like musicians. Like, there are a lot of rappers that like go by the same name. And I don't remember exactly what the rapper's name was, where I was like, they're both allowed to have that name, but like that doesn't seem to be a thing outside of SAG. Are you familiar at all with this?
I'm not, but I think that's probably specifically it's because that's a union rule. I don't think there's like a musical union that has the same rule, I would guess.
There's no union for rappers?
I don't think so.
Damn. Maybe that's our meal ticket. We'll start the rappers union.
There can only be 5 active youngs or littles at once.
Yeah.
No one else can have the nickname young or little.
Oh, I want to, and there's like Lil Baby, Duh Baby. I'm like, there's got to be a law against this somewhere. Like, that can't be right.
Also, once you hit the age of 45, you can no longer be young. I am sorry, young jock. You are no longer young jock. It's just jock.
Agreed. Also, like, Fat Joe isn't really that fat anymore. Now he's like Chubby Joe.
Slightly overweight Joe. We'll see how it looks on an album. What else did I have here? The music was produced by T-Bone Burnett, who also wrote and produced music for Crazy Heart, Happy Feet, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And the movie was nominated for an Academy Award for its costume design.
Amazing.
You want to hear some fun facts?
I do.
Julie Taymor watched the premiere of Across the Universe sitting next to Paul McCartney. She was nervous about what he would think, so when the movie was over, she asked if there was anything he didn't like about it. McCartney responded by saying, "What's not to like?" McCartney also sang along with All My Loving under his breath, a very moving moment for Taymor.
So here's the thing about Paul McCartney. He's so pure.
I will say, you know who my favorite Beatle is?
Ringo
motherfucking Starr. I love that man.
Yeah.
Ringo's even pure. Ringo's like, everybody should just be peaceful, man. Yeah, so what if I can't play the drums? Who cares?
Yeah, I can't do his accent, but he's
You can't do a Liverpool accent? Everyone can do a little Liverpool.
My boss from Cycle Bar was literally from Liverpool. Did I ever tell you that?
Did he say he was Liverpoolian?
No, I've never. Maybe he did, but I don't think so. I mean, I haven't spoken to him in a long time, but he was from Liverpool. And one day I said to him, "Are you from Liverpool, or is that just what you tell Americans because they've heard of it?" And he was like, "No, I am legitimately from Liverpool." And I was like, "Whoa." Crazy.
He said, "No, I am Paul McCartney."
Yeah. But yeah, Paul McCartney is so pure. I can't imagine him ever not being nice to somebody. Do we know that to be true, or is that just something that I've made up in my mind?
I think it's more something you've made up in your mind, but I don't have any outright stories of him being a dick. So I'm going to also stick with that.
Okay. I mean, he's never the bar, unfortunately, at this point is so low, but I'm like, he's never raped anybody, right?
No. Oh my God. No, he is not.
Yeah. So he's great. He's great.
So fun facts. The character of JoJo is a reference to Jimi Hendrix, and Sadie is referencing Janis Joplin.
Obviously. Is that a question?
I just figured I'd include it.
Okay. That should be obvious.
The head of the studio, Joe Roth, disliked Julie Taymor's initial cut of the film. He had it re-edited to better suit mass audiences. Taymor's contract gave her final cut rights. Joe Roth had hoped to persuade her to allow his version of the film to be released instead. This was not only unsuccessful, Taymor threatened a lawsuit if Roth failed to release her version. Moreover, in exchange for participating in the DVD release of the film's publicity campaign, in exchange for participating in the DVD campaigning, the marketing, Julie Taymor forced the studio to sign an agreement that all copies of Roth's edit would be destroyed without ever being released to the general public, and that no further re-edits of the film, barring TV edits, could ever be released without her express permission. The fuck you power of that to be like, not only will there be no edits, destroy the ones he already made.
That's amazing. Do we know what his edits were?
We do not.
Wow, what a shame.
Destroyed.
I'd love to know. Wow. Good for her.
I am curious,
Girl
but
power.
wow. Way to hold that contract and hold that studio power. I mean, maybe she could have got more jobs if she had been willing to, do what they wanted, but good for her, man. use that
if
power.
it was all roads were leading to Spider-Man for her anyway, it was over for her one way or the
other. Let's see here. Daily Variety reported that the filmmakers had to pay the owners of the rights to the songs to the Beatles, publishers ATV, Sony Music, and Michael Jackson, about $10 million for the 30 songs used in the film.
Wow.
As a condition of the song's use, the advertising posters for the film could not mention the Beatles nor the songwriters' names. However, the owners of the rights to the songs of the Beatles were unable to ban the names of Lennon and McCartney in the credits.
Wow. So
but they could not say the Beatles.
Wow. I'm trying to think. Did I know that going into this movie?
Like in an interview with Julie Taymor, I literally heard her say like the Beatles, even though I can't say it's the Beatles. Like I was like, it was kind of funny.
Wow. I'm curious now because I saw this when it was in the movie theaters like multiple times. I loved it. I saw it multiple times. And I never do that. But now I'm like, did I know going in it was the Beatles music? Was I just like surprised? I mean, it's
I'm sure you had
right?
to have known. Yeah, the songs are all very like it's not like it's subtle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All the songs are very obviously Beatles songs.
It's just crazy that they don't say it at all. Okay, that's interesting.
No, but it makes sense they don't say it in the movie. But yeah, it's surprising that the advertising couldn't use that more.
Yeah. I guess Michael Jackson was still alive at this point because obviously once he died, the rights went to Apple, right? Or they bought the rights.
Maybe he was still alive when they were making the movie, but I thought he died before this came out.
No. He died in 2009. It was the day of Scott Interrante's prom. I was his prom date.
Jesus
Scott
Christ.
Interrante, who writes the
he
music
died
for this
June
podcast.
25th, 2009. What the fuck?
I was a junior. Scott was a senior. We were at his prom. And it ruined my day. It ruined my night. I had no fun. I was like, well, Michael Jackson's dead, so what's the fucking point? And I remember they played Thriller, and I was like, guys, no, we're not dancing. Sit down. Like, I was devastated. Yeah, ruined.
I'm just picturing you
prom.
crying doing the Thriller dance.
Yeah. And it's funny because now when I retell that story, I'm like, yeah, Michael Jackson died the day of my prom, but it wasn't my prom, listener. It was my boyfriend at the time's prom, and I was a year younger than him, so I was a junior.
It's close to midnight.
Yeah, it was devastating. Anyway, yeah, he was definitely alive, but I think after he died, Apple bought the rights because at one point the Beatles couldn't be on iTunes, which is really funny because now who gives a fuck about iTunes?
Yeah, it is funny how like there was a time period where iTunes really mattered and it's not now.
Yeah, I'm gonna look. Are they on Spotify? They must.
The Beatles,
be,
yes,
right?
they are.
They are? Okay. The whole discography?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they are. They're on here. I see. Okay. Interesting. Their most popular song is Here Comes the Sun. That song doesn't do it for me.
Do. That's the only Beatles song Giselle likes.
Really? She doesn't like any other Beatles song?
Which is a real pain in my ass.
Also, second most popular song. Oh, no. It's just listed as number 2, but it has significantly less listens, is Now and Then.
That's newer.
Oh, okay.
If that's the song I'm thinking of. Didn't they technically just put out a song?
I don't know.
They did because they used artificial
2023.
intelligence. Yeah, to separate Lennon's vocals from there was a piano backing. So they were able to use those Lennon's vocals with a new recording. So that's a new Beatles song.
I don't like that. Do you like that?
No, not really. I don't like that. AI should not be used for art. AI should be used for things humans don't want to do.
Yeah, like writing resignation letters. Wow, I don't like that. Tell me a little bit about like your like relationship with the Beatles. Like, when did that start? Like, why do you love them so much? Tell me.
I don't know if there's a when it started. I feel like I grew up with my parents listening. I listened to most of the music my parents listened to. Like, obviously, it's gotten wider, my musical taste in that, but I grew up listening to what they listened to, and I got really into that stuff. And there was a time period where I could tell you way too much about the Beatles, quite frankly.
Yeah.
That's no longer, but I just have such a reverence for them as this band that changed music. And I think virtually any artist of music today owes something to the Beatles, whether they realize it or not.
100%.
And
yeah,
one of the most impressive things ever, I think, is the fact that the Beatles only recorded for 7 years. Like the amount that they changed in 7 years is unbelievable.
Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah, they are the like fathers of modern pop music, like no question. And it's funny because you'll watch things about like Max Martin, who is the genius behind like the boy bands of the late 90s and the early 2000s, and everything that he does, all of his music making, like I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys, I think is probably his like most well-known song, is like mathematically perfect. Like every syllable, every note, everything is just like math. And it's like it repeats perfectly. It sounds perfect. It's all just like put together in a way that is like perfect for the human ear. And it's like he got that from the Beatles. You know what I mean? Like that it like he didn't make that up. He just like perfected it in a way that was more modern for the 90s. But like it's all directly from like that era of I Want to Hold Your Hand, She Loves You, like that style, initial like what they called rock and roll back in the day.
Yeah. And I think it's obvious when you listen to some pop music that it goes back to that. But I mean, the amount that they evolved during that time is just incredible to me. And I they're not my favorite band. Like I probably like the Rolling Stones more than I like the Beatles, but I just have such a respect for them.
Yeah. 100%. I agree with you.
I got like, oh, sorry.
No, please.
Oh, I was gonna say I have like two more facts.
Backed me up.
Okay, so obviously we have cameos from Eddie Izzard as Mr. Kite, Salma Hayek as the nurse during Happiness is a Warm Gun, and Bono, as we said already, and Joe Cocker appears as three different people. He appears as the pimp, a hobo, and a hippie, all singing.
How much did you think that the pimp was Harvey Keitel?
I don't know who I thought it was, but I was like, this is somebody. You're showing him to me for too long for it not to be anybody.
Yeah.
And then once I realized it was Joe Cocker, I was like, oh, okay.
Interesting. So I didn't realize it was Joe Cocker necessarily. I thought it was, first I thought it was Harvey Keitel. But is he the same guy that does Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite?
No, that's Eddie Izzard.
How do I know him?
He's a stand-up comic, so you might have seen him act in something. I'm not sure if he goes by he. He might be non-binary, but if you look up Eddie Izzard, you'll probably know them from something.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, cool. Okay.
And the last thing I have here is they filmed in New York, Liverpool, and the scenes in Vietnam were filmed in New Jersey.
What?
Yeah, Julie Taymor was like, we plopped some palm trees down in Jersey, and I told them not to stay in the river for too long because the New Jersey River's got to have something gross in it.
That's fucking hilarious. In high school, did you read The Things They Carried?
No.
Okay, so it was a book about the Vietnam War. It was like a bunch of short stories. And one thing that will never leave me is like, you've heard of like the slang for going to Vietnam as being in the shit.
Okay.
It was because they had like full blown like rivers of shit, like human shit. And I don't remember why there were rivers of human shit, but I know people were getting like really sick from being like wading in the water of shit water. Gross. And yeah, and I was watching the Vietnam like scene, and I was like, they could have made the water a little shittier. It should be a little shittier.
Well, not
I think.
All water was shit in Vietnam, I'm sure. Maybe there's some.
I don't know. You never know.
I've said that Jersey water, not shitty enough. And that's the most ringing endorsement of Jersey ever.
It truly is. It truly is. It's not as shitty as the Vietnam War was. Therefore, it's all right in my book. Wow. I did go back and forth with Corey quite a bit on like, is this filmed in New York or is this like some pathetic soundstage somewhere? Because it's so visually like altered, you know what I mean? Like between the time periodization and like the visuals of the movie, I was like, this could be New York. I don't know.
I'm surprised to hear that it was filmed in New York and Liverpool. And she did specifically say, what was it? She goes, we did have to film in Liverpool because we tried to do the Liverpool scenes in New York, but those Liverpool faces just don't look like American faces. And I was like, interesting way of saying that they're ugly, I guess. Yeah. So I was like, that's kind of a very like calm dig at the Liverpool people.
Yeah. People in New York too pretty. What can we say? Yeah, I like that. I'm into that.
All right, Cap. I'm out of facts. Should we get to some verdicts?
Let's verdict.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
Yeah, it's your movie. Take it away.
Dill, I'm going to be honest with you. When I watched this movie, I was a little bit disappointed in the rewatch because I do remember it being something that I absolutely loved. And I watched it with Corey, and I was like, oh, he's probably not digging this. Like, it's a little long. This should have been over by now. How much longer? So I had every intention of coming on here and saying, no, not a movie to watch before you die. However, I've kind of like talked myself back into it because I'm having a lot of joy talking about the movie, fully aware that it wasn't like the best movie I've ever seen, but it did spark joy, as they say. And so I'm at a little bit of a crossroads here because that She's So Heavy scene is so fucking good, and the music is so fun, and I felt like I sang along with most of the songs. Like, Why Don't We Do It in the Road? Such a fun song to sing along to. I don't know. There were just so many moments of like, I'm having fun because I love the Beatles, but I also recognize that like it's not the biggest like plot heavy movie. Like, we're not necessarily like getting a ton out of this, and it is a little bit long. So I'm not guessing that at the end of this it's going to end up on the list, but I think just because of how much I'm enjoying talking about it after the fact, like I'm going to say yeah. And I really didn't intend on that coming in here. I was planning on saying, I was wrong, but I had a great time talking to you about it, and I love this music, and it's not a life-altering movie, but I think if you love the Beatles and you love visual art, it's great. You should watch it.
What did Corey think?
He liked it. I wish he were home so he could say for himself. I do believe that he liked it. We were both happy when it was over. And I think sometimes, in fairness, on Sundays, I'm like, all right, I have to watch this movie. Like, we have to watch this movie for the podcast. So sometimes it feels like a task on our list of things to do, which I'm sure you have from time to time experienced. But like, I think he liked it. I think he would have probably liked it more if I had a deeper relationship to the music.
Okay. Well, I would say it's tough because looking at the plot summary, the music of the Beatles and the Vietnam War formed the backdrop for the romance between an American girl and a poor English artist. I don't feel like the romance is developed that well. I don't feel like it does anything about Vietnam that well. Like, I'm like, if you're going to watch a Vietnam movie, watch, Platoon. Watch, it's obviously not super realistic, but Full Metal Jacket, I guess.
Isn't Saving Private Ryan?
That's World War II.
Whatever. I've never seen that movie.
Holy shit, Gab. I mean, that's very obvious, but I would say, like I said, how you have defined some of mine as picks for 15-year-old boys. This is kind of a pick for 15-year-old girls. It's not a movie to watch before you die for me. I feel like I was kind of going easy during our talk because I was like, I kind of don't like this movie.
I know. And I could feel that you were like trying to find the positives.
I will say, rewatching it, I did find the positives in how I think it's visually beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, listen, I'm not surprised here. I did say to Corey at some point, probably about halfway through, I said, Dylan is going to hate this.
But I did not hate it like I thought I would.
Yeah. And I think I kind of had the opposite where I like didn't love it like I thought I would, but it kind of landed somewhere in the middle. And I'm just leaning toward like, as a former musical theater kid, and as someone who loves the Beatles, and as someone who like really loves the visual art of theater, particularly as it pertains to musicals, I think it just spoke to me in a way that like I can't quite say no to, even though I'm aware that like it's basically just the Beatles version of Mamma Mia. Like, it ain't great. I'm not upset about this. I'm glad we watched it. Thank you for appeasing me. I'm glad I watched it. I may never watch it again, but it does make me want to listen to the Beatles, and I'm happy for that.
I was enjoying thinking about Beatles songs after I watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will never watch this again.
Fair.
I don't think I ever would have come back to it if not for today.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it, but I wouldn't even like recommend it really. I'd recommend it visually. If you're really into like just some nice ass visuals, sure.
Or if you are somebody who really likes musicals and you're looking for a movie to watch, I would say like you'll enjoy this.
All right, Gab. What do we say at the end of this?
Email movies to watch before you die @gmail.com. Voice note anchor.fm/movies to watch. Tell us your thoughts, your opinions, your feelings, and tune in next week. Dylan, it's your pick.
Yeah, and like and subscribe, and we're part of the Hall of Pods podcasting network, so you can click the link tree below there to see our podcasting friends. It is my pick, and it's a festive season, so I got to go with something Christmassy. Maybe you've seen it. Gab, we're going to do A Christmas Story next week.
Oh. Okay.
Have you seen it?
Is that a joke, Dylan?
Oh, wait, I said A Christmas Story. I'm sorry. We're going to do A Christmas Horror Story next week.
No.
Yeah.
First of all, that was a dirty trick. I don't want to watch that.
Gab, you're going to love it.
No, I'm not.
I'm going to love it.
Is this the one with the guy from Stranger Things as the evil Santa Claus?
Guy from Stranger? No, that's Violent Night?
Oh, yeah. The guy that I saw on 7th Ave that I
David Harbour.
texted you about. Yeah. Tall.
No.
Tall.
A Christmas Horror Story. You will maybe enjoy it. I know I'm going to have a good time.
Corey's going to like it. Whatever.
I hope you have fun with it.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Is it going to give me nightmares?
No, Gab.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening. If you've made it this far, what's your favorite movie that we've reviewed so far?
Are you talking to me?
Not you. No, I'm asking the listener a question.
Yeah. Let us know.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Deuces.
Bye.
What will you do? What will he do? Oh my God, what will he do? Do. Why isn't the issue here who I am?
Because, Maxwell, what you do defines who you are.
No, Uncle Teddy. Who you are defines what you do. Right, Jude?
Surely it's not what you do, but it's the way that you do it.